Hello, welcome to another episode of Quick Tricks for the MC-101. Roland have just released a new firmware version 1.71 for the MC-101. Roland has released an official video showing off some of the new features, but they switched between the MC-707 and MC-101 and only showed the main additions. In this video, I'll keep the focus on the MC-101 and I'll run through all of the new features of the update, some of which were skipped in the official video. If you want instructions on how to install the update, please check my previous video on the 1.6 update. The update process is exactly the same. With that out the way, let's get started. Scene chain. Finally, Roland has implemented scene chain. This is one of the most requested features for the MC-101, and with this update, the MC-101 effectively has a song mode. Press clip and sequence to enter the scene mode. Then hold shift and press a pad to edit the scene chain settings. There are two options, length and scene chain. Length determines how long the scene will play before switching to the next scene. This is determined by the length of your master clock. If you set it to off, then the MC-101 will loop this scene indefinitely once it's triggered. The scene chain function turns scene chain on or off globally. In this example, I'll put in a length of 4 for each scene 1 to 3 and then set scene 4 to off. When I press play, you'll see that the scenes are triggered sequentially until it reaches scene 4. Then it loops at scene 4. At the moment, scene chain is limited to playing back the scenes sequentially in numerical order from scene 1 to 2 to 3, etc. You cannot jump scenes. For example, you can't chain scene 5 directly into scene 8. If you're on scene 8 of a bank, scene chain will continue to scene 1 of the next bank. Here, I'm on scene 8 of bank 1. You can see it will move to scene 1 in bank 2. Note, however, if you're on scene 8 in bank 8, the MC-101 will just stop. This may be good if you want to program the MC-101 to stop at the end of the song for you. Shortcuts. There are two added shortcuts related to scene chain. You can recall the first scene by holding clip and pressing play. Here, I start with scene 4 and then use the shortcut to jump back to scene 1. You can press shift and hit the value knob whilst you're in the scene page to quickly turn on and off scene chain. Note that the play triangle indicates when scene chain is on. Count in. Another hotly requested feature is count in before recording. Press shift and filter to enter the utility menu. Press system and scroll to count in step. You can set the length of the count in here. Notice the metronome count in before recording. Chord Designer. The Chord Designer has a new feature where you can automatically write the same chord across all of the pads, instead of writing them individually one pad at a time. Press shift and filter to enter the chord menu, and then choose a chord. To write the chord to all of the pads, there are two new options. Type 1 will write the same chord across all of the pads by transposing chromatically in parallel from the selected chord, i.e., each note of the chord will be transposed by the same number of semitones. This may lead to some notes being triggered outside of the scale, but would be similar to what would happen if you transposed a sample of the chord. Type 2 will transpose the chord, but keep all the notes in the scale. Audio insert function. You can now insert audio from the USB input or from other tracks on the MC-101. The audio will be inserted before the MFX of the specific track. The main purpose for this would be if you wanted to record a parallel chain for effects, or if you wanted to record the wet signal separately from the dry signal using multi-track recording. Here, I've set up a delay on track 4. I then press Shift and track 4 to edit the insert. I'm sending the bass line from track 2 into track 4. Here is the dry signal. Here is the wet signal. Here is a blend. Note, you can only insert from a previous track. For example, I can only insert tracks 1 and 2 into track 3. BPM sync on looper track. You can now choose whether to sync a looper track to the track tempo. This may be useful for ambient sounds that you do not want to pitch with tempo. In this example, I've got a rainwater ambient sound on a looper track. With BPM sync on, it plays at a higher or lower pitch depending on the tempo. Press Shift and the track number to edit BPM sync settings. If I turn BPM sync off, it will play at the original pitch and length, as it is not stretched to compensate. You can see that when I now change the tempo, the pitch does not change. Export function. This is huge. You can now export sounds from looper tracks. This is great, as you can save them as WAV files to the SD card. A creative way to use this feature is to create random drum kits from the random sound menu. Previously, the drum hits in the random sound generator were pretty much a waste of a track, as you could only load them on tone tracks. With this trick, you can now load them onto drum tracks. Create a tone track and then use the random sound generator until you find a drum hit that you like. Then resample it into a looper track. You can then export the sample. In the looper track, press Shift and Sound to edit the sound. Then go to Export. It will export the looper track as a WAV file. The WAV files are numbered sequentially and saved in an export folder on the SD card. You can now reload this sound back into a drum kit. Repeat this process for a fully random kit. Metronome output. Previously, the metronome would only be sent out of the physical outputs and not the USB. There are now additional settings which allow you to send the metronome out of the USB. Press Shift and Filter for the utility menu. Go to System. There are now options to change where the metronome is positioned. Mix out is the original setting. The metronome output is after the total effects, but does not output through the USB. The two new settings are pre-TFX, which outputs the metronome before total effects and sends the metronome audio through the USB. This is great if you want to apply a filter sweep to the metronome. And post-TFX, which is after the total effects and through the USB, you can see that the metronome is not impacted by the total effects. Scatter, pan glide. There is a new pan glide effect, which is like an auto pan effect. Press Shift and Scatter to edit the pad. Then find pan glide. Scatter, random grains. There is also an additional random setting in the grain effect, which plays back grains in a random order. Scatter, quantize. You can now also quantize the scatter effect based on the length that you choose. For example, if I choose 16, it will quantize my length to 16 and trigger at the next 16. Delay Reverb Send added to PC in. In project settings, you can apply delay or reverb to the input signal coming in from PC in. Here, I'm sending a drum loop to the MC-101's PC input from Ableton Live. That's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. Remember to check out my other videos for more quick tricks. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to T-Break Beats for more videos like this one.